Hey everyone, welcome back to the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator Measure What Matters Simple 60 workshop. I'm here today with my friend William Deck, and we're going to be covering New Year, New Mindset. I think you're going to love what he brings to the show. But before we get in there, I want to say thanks to our sponsors, Bank 59 and Quick Trip, and the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator for making this workshop happen. For those of you that have not had the privilege to meet, my name is Brent Halfwasson. I'm a Milwaukee small business coach, and we work with small business owners and entrepreneurs to transform their hard work into hard cash. Ultimately, we really like to be focused on people working hard and don't have much money to show for it. You're ready to master the link between what you do and the results you want to achieve. If you've launched and found reality doesn't match your plan or have difficulty telling your story and maximizing its impact, we'd love to talk with you. We think this show is a great place for you to be, where we try and take concepts that sometimes can take people a long time to master, and we try and simplify them so that in 60 minutes you can come away with some concrete, solid pieces that are going to be helpful for your everyday life. Before we get started, and while people are coming in, I want to encourage everyone to go ahead and tell us your perspective. Take this 2-minute survey and complete this so that we can get an idea of where you're standing when it comes to mindset. It should take about 2 minutes, so you can either do the QR code or go ahead and type in bit.ly/EN mindset. That's entrepreneur mindset. And just let us know where you stand. And then we'll go ahead and share the results. There is a poll there. So there's an open-ended question and a poll. And we just want to see where everyone is standing today. And I see we've had a few more folks hop on. And so definitely welcome to the show as well. Susie, I see you on there. Barb, welcome. Erica, welcome. If there are some of you that I missed, don't take offense, but there we're at. And while we get in there, I just want to get an opportunity. This is a great opportunity, actually, to start to introduce William. William, how you doing today? What's happening?
I'm doing well today. How about yourself? How's everyone
We're loving life. Everyone good? Got some heads bobbing. So that's always on Zoom. That's like what you're going for. You're looking for heads bobbing. That's a gold standard. So
it's a Monday as well. So
there it is. William, do you want to introduce yourself? There you go. Like greetings in the chat are good. You want to introduce yourself and just give a little bit of your background, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A between us before you launch in.
most definitely. So once again, my name is William Deck, and I am the founder and CEO of Mind Business LLC. And we are a coaching and consulting firm that focuses on mental fitness education. And what that really means is that we get to the root cause of self-sabotage within organizations that usually impacts culture, as well as some one-on-one work to be able to uncover those self-sabotaging or negative subconscious beliefs that individuals hold that you may not be aware of, that may be all the way back from childhood. So that's what we do from day to day. And we've been doing it for almost 3 years now, and an adventure every single day. So
Talk to us a little bit about self-sabotage. I'm probably getting into part of your presentation, but again, I want to just get a sense and help everyone understand a sense of what does it look like when we're talking about self-sabotage? What shows up on a regular basis? What are some of the things that we see that we might go, I didn't know that was happening, but now I know what to call it?
yeah, I would say self-sabotage tends to show up in the form of ideas, belief systems, or behaviors that make you feel unworthy and or unforgiven. So a lot of us, we're not aware that we're holding on a lot of unforgiveness towards ourselves and other people. And that in itself, by holding on to that negative energy, is keeping us from being able to make progress in certain areas of our life. And then when it comes to unworthiness or that I don't deserve something, it's rarely that someone will tell themselves that directly, but what are your behaviors, your actions, and your patterns showing? If there's negative situations or circumstances that continue to repopulate in your life through different people, different jobs, different situations, but you're the common denominator, that tends to be self-sabotage. And it's not good or bad. It's just understanding who we are and saying, what is the root cause of this? How can I pull it up from the root? And just like a weed, it will eventually go away if I replace or uproot that negative idea, that negative belief or behavior with a positive one. And so it's all about being very practical, trying to understand ourselves better, which helps us to understand the world better.
Love it. Love it. Let's take a quick look at that survey, because I want to give William as much time as possible, because as you can tell from that intro, this is definitely going to be a meaty, it's a meaty portion of the discussion. And let's get back to that survey. Hello, survey says, there it is, beautiful. So here's just some of the questions. Question was, how did you prepare your business for 2023? I'm excited to say that Worked On Mindset was actually hit a high bar. So that means work that Mr. Deck and others are doing is obviously paying off. But and then let's talk about a little bit about what mindset means. Entrepreneurial mindset. Someone said perspiration. Well, that's potentially true. High value benefit to customers while maintaining professional freedom and security. Working hard and smart for money. Mindset of success and resilience, and a set of ideas and concepts that either prevent or rocket a person to another level. So that's a baseline, I think, where we're starting from. And then I want to give, I think we got a good list of people in here. So William, I'm going to pass the floor over to you and say, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, so today I really just wanted to kind of have a conversation that we actually had live at Expansive Hearing Law with TOSA, our first live event. And the subject matter was healing trauma to create workplace success. And so today I'm not going to put a full PowerPoint on you and do the presentation again, but just wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that we discussed and really just have an open form dialogue because I think that's how we all learn best. And so overall, when it came to the topic of healing trauma to create workplace success, the reason why we decided to focus on that is because the concept around trauma or the perception around trauma is not necessarily positive. Just like when we talk about like the word mental health, even though it's not negative in its context and details, for a lot of times when we hear mental health, we don't want to put ourselves in that box because that means we have to admit something is wrong. And I want us to hopefully guide this conversation by talking less about what's right or wrong and talk about positive and negative outcomes, right? So if it is producing a positive outcome in your life, it is working for you, right? And if it's producing a negative outcome, it is not working for you. No matter how long you've held on to it, no matter if this is the way that we do it from this city or in our own household when I was growing up or whatever else. We have to be able to be the third party objective viewer and decider in our own life. If we're just looking at things as they are and not questioning things that don't work, that make us feel bad, that make us feel, once again, unforgiven, unworthy, and any negative emotion, then all we're doing is allowing those patterns to continue to get stronger and stronger. So quickly back to the actual presentation last week, when we talked about healing trauma, trauma is something that happens to all of us at different times in our lives. And they can be micro, they can be macro, it can be one particular incident that changed your perspective on life for positive or negative outcomes in the future. It could also be something that happens from day to day. It could be losing a family member, getting fired from a job, so many different things that happen to us, and it causes an imprint in our life, right? That is not positive or positive outcome based in the form of an idea that could build into or even impact our behaviors. So a perfect example when it comes to trauma, maybe we were let go from a job early in the pandemic and it took us, let's say, 6 months to get rehired. You get rehired, you get into that new role, but as soon as you begin to hear conversation with your boss or not having a really clear, concise onboarding or feeling like you need to know everything in that role so that you don't get fired again or that this trauma doesn't happen again, it may not be front of mind saying, I don't want to be fired again, but based on what happened in the past, something that was not a positive outcome for you or perceived in that way, then we're going to sometimes overcompensate. We're going to think that who we are and what we bring to the table is not good enough. We have to do more, or I have to continue to be better in different ways outside of what is just naturally required because they hired you for you. And when we get into our own head and believe that we have to be more than we were created to be, or more than we are in current state, what we're saying is who we are is not good enough. And that begins to build cognitive dissonance because we begin to see shadows around us that reaffirm what our belief is. So I see we have a question here, but I want to just finish explaining it quickly. There is a law in psychology called the law of correspondence, which means if there is an internal state that has been galvanized, it tends to manifest or prove itself or show itself on the outside. For as within, so without. So if we have fear around being fired, we're going to continue to receive stimuli that support that idea, whether it is a reality or not, because what we tend to do is put assumptions based on what other people mean, their intentions, what they're thinking about us, And most people are so concerned about their own life, including your boss, they're not so worried about you. Yes, they're going to check in, but they have other things to be worried about. And they're not looking at everything you do, ready to find a reason to fire you. But in our heads, we could have that. So for micro or macro traumas, obviously it could be a really, really challenging, a hurtful or painful childhood event, right? There could be a macro trauma that was one event that impacted you for many, many years, but there's things that fit in between that. And all these are mini and macro traumas that if we can just be aware of and say, it's okay not to be okay, we have an opportunity to be able to uproot that belief system or that initial idea that can build into a belief system or a behavioral pattern. And when we do that, we just have an opportunity to have more energy and more focus towards our goals and less time using our creative inspiration and power against ourselves, which is self-sabotage. And I think someone else mentioned another term that we can get into. I'll pause there.
William, would you say that ultimately as we do this, as we're if I could use a different set of words, manifesting our own internal emotions outside, do we start to create some of these self-fulfilling prophecies that you mentioned, the example of getting fired?
Yeah.
Everywhere I'm looking, I'm reacting as if some guy's going to fire me. And it starts making me hesitate or get resentful or cop an attitude. When meanwhile, it was, they don't think a general principle in life is other people don't think about me as much as I think about me. They're busy in their own mess, and their pressure had nothing to do with you, but that's how you perceive it. Was that a line?
Absolutely. I believe, and this is not necessarily from like a religious perspective, but it's true. I believe all of us are prophets. We tend to speak our futures in advance all the time, right? And so we can think ourselves and speak ourselves out of opportunities and open doors. We can speak ourselves into it, because as a book that I love to read all the time says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Right? So shall he or she manifest. It's talking about mankind. And we have to understand that because we come from a creator, whatever that is for you, we are creative and we do manifest what we believe. A perfect example of this, just to give a little bit of context, this is personal perspective, but there is a lot of science behind this as well. I believe that strong emotions, especially strong negative emotions, can cause illness within the body, as well as a strong positive gratitude-based attitude, laughter, love energy can also heal you. And it's not about saying this is what science says and I have to have all this data. I've seen it in my own personal life. I saw it with my stepfather, who was a Harvard graduate, brilliant. He was one semester away from graduating from law school before his mother got sick and he didn't finish that. In the early 1970s. He was one of 10 Black folks on the Harvard campus back then. I'm sorry, not Harvard, Yale, excuse me. My bad, Steve. But he had so many strong negative emotions. His dad wasn't there, and he felt his value was derived through money, what he could provide. And anytime he could provide money, he was doing well financially, he was happy and things were great. And when he was having challenges, he struggled all the way into his last day. And he was under so much pressure, but he was the most brilliant salesman I've ever known and human. But he was a perfect personal example of how not to mentally and emotionally manage life. He dealt with different illnesses and he wasn't overweight or anything like that. I personally believe and saw that it was through the way that he mentally and emotionally dealt with stress, how he saw himself. And so I saw that in a very personal way. And so I think it's really just important to think about things like that. You can also look up a lot of science that is no longer popular, but it was a standard form of medicine about 100 years ago, and prior to that, called psychosomatic medicine. And it was literally the mind-body connection. They already, like our ancestors knew, this causes issues with your liver when it's unforgiveness, depression, and it was literally mapped out, and it had been there for thousands of years. It's just no longer popular, but you can still find it. But it's just one example to show that our mind is much more powerful than we could ever imagine. And it is a mind-body spiritual connection that cannot be broken. You can't be, in an impoverished state emotionally and think you're going to continue to always be physically, mentally healthy. You usually manifest starting out with just aches and pains and little small things, but you also can be not mentally well and then think that the physical side will correspond or vice versa. So I don't want to get off subject, but it's just something to think about, because many times we have so much more power in our lives than we give ourselves credit for. And we don't want to give power to external things when most of the time, if we start here, we can get things back on track first mentally, then emotionally, then physically or experientially, but we can't neglect any one of those areas in order to be able to have a equitable, healthy, and well life. And I've had to learn that through many different trials, and just wanted to share that. Hopefully that's useful.
Cool. I do want you to touch on Paula's question if you can, William, and then I'll come back with a couple of follow-ups as well.
Okay. And Paul, it was about imposter syndrome. Yep. So I personally believe that you're right, Paula, that when it comes to self-sabotage, I think it's directly connected to imposter syndrome, because we will self-sabotage out or back down to any level that we don't believe that we deserve, right? So we tend to be able to keep in our lives from a subconscious level, but also in our experiences, what we believe that we deserve. And if we don't have what's called a mental map that includes those positive outcomes, that next level, whether it's financial, solid relationships, when you're accustomed to having poor relationships, whether it's business-wise or with loved ones or whatever it is, anytime we don't see that as an acceptable reality that we deserve on the inside, then when it happens on the outside, there's so much cognitive dissonance that either we won't accept it or we'll find a way to mess it up. And it's, once again, it's not that we want to do that consciously, but our behavior shows something that simply is incongruent with what we say we want or what we are experiencing. And so, once again, the law of correspondence is basically everything that I just said. So yes, it's connected. And in that way, it's really the same thing, because you can't have one without the other. If you believe you deserve something, then you will do whatever it requires, not just to acquire it, but to build upon it. Because deep within yourself, outside of all the actions and the disciplines, you were telling yourself in actions, words, verbal and nonverbal, that you deserve it. So you're going to go out there and get it. And it's almost an intuitive, not just if it will happen or if you can do it or you have it or attain it. It's just a when. Like, when will it happen? And you're just going to be calm and confident and live it out. When you begin to question and say, I'm not sure, even in a small way, even without words, that's when the dissonance comes in and we have to make a decision. Do I deserve this or not? And our actions and our behaviors and our words. Remember, there is power of life and death from a creation perspective in the tongue, right? So we have to make sure that even with what we say is congruent, because all these things are different confirmations at different levels of vibration that allow us to be able to either have tons of resistance to get somewhere or to be able to be in flow. And it happens, once again, in a much more intuitive way. So I think you're right.
Did that hit your question, Paula? All right, we're getting more head nods. Head nods are the best you get on Zoom. It's like a thumbs up, but faster.
I know.
So William, we're in a business setting. Why, and it's like, okay, we get some psychology, and we all remember that we probably had to take that one required psychology course in college, and none of it was useful, like what you're talking about. So why is this relevant for business owners? Where does this challenge start to undercut us?
I think this is relevant for in our presentation was there is this kind of balance between all the trauma that we've experienced in life. So that's kind of the build-up effect just from outside of work. Then depending on the work culture itself, then we could be picking up some extra cognitive dissonance, toxic stress from work based on poor company culture, bullying or anything that's happening within work, even from a perception perspective, even if it's not actually real, but if we are perceiving threats and danger at work, then that builds upon it. And then obviously we have the impact of working with other people that may have their own toxic stress overload, that if you work with them for long enough, they're going to rub off on you. So we have three different ways: what we bring, what we pick up at work just from the company culture itself, and then the secondary impact of working with people that may be going through things, which is okay, but if it's toxic behaviors incongruent with your belief systems, and now you're getting frustrated with it, it begins to impact you. And so all those things can happen. And if we're the primary leader at our organization, of course, it starts with us, but it's also about a personal accountability for each individual to say, before I point the finger on the outside, I'm going to point a finger back into me and say, well, how can I be looking at this situation differently? Because if we don't check ourselves, just like I said in the 90s, I'm 36. If you don't check yourself, you're going to wreck yourself, right? I think what that means now, from a mature perspective, is that if you do not look at yourself first and saying the only thing that I can control is the way that I think and feel about this, which is me, then I'm going to be in trouble. Because if I'm putting the responsibility on other people to make me okay, I'm not being self-responsible for my life in the way that I need to, right? Not that I should want to, but you need it. So it's actually both, right? But it's also important to address that your traumas, your experiences are real, right? And that even if you're a business owner, whether you own it yourself or you work for a company or whatever in between, all these things are a human challenge. And if we can treat ourselves a little more human, be a little more kind to ourselves, and take the time to not just work in and on the business, but in and on ourselves, then as we become a better quality person, as I'm sure a lot of you all may know even better than me, that based on the quality of person that you become, that will directly impact how far you can go in business. You have to become a better quality human to be able to go higher. So if you want to be a multimillionaire, it's less about the money, it's about the person that you become. But you can't do that if you're afraid, because you feel as though you have so many scars and band-aids that if you take one off, then someone's going to say, hey, he has a cut on his arm, or she has a skin knee. And the reality is, psychologically, from that perspective, all of us have that. But if we're allowed to give a little bit of air, put some Neosporin on there and let it heal, but it needs to be exposed to the air and the light in order to heal faster. And it doesn't mean you have to share your issues with everyone else, but are you willing to address them? And the last thing that I'll say about this, that I think is important to think about, I actually heard this initially from a pastor. His name is Miles Monroe. He passed away in a plane crash about a decade ago, but his sermons are so powerful. One thing that he talked about in one of his sermons, he said he had been asking the Most High, or God, his creator, where was the most value in the earth found? And he received the response one day, and this is what the response was. The response was is that the most value in the earth realm is actually housed in graveyards all around the world, because so many people go to their grave with unrealized potential, usually because they blocked themselves, they didn't love themselves, and didn't believe that they deserved it, and didn't give themselves the opportunity to see what the end was going to be. So we have to face our fears, which usually start within ourselves, about ourselves and how people perceive us, because we don't feel like we are good enough and worthy to even go after our wildest dreams. And many times we make too many compromises when we don't need to, and we shouldn't, because whatever we heal in our generation within ourselves and those around us, our kids will have less things, less issues, less drama, less nonsense to go through, because it's not just how much money you leave them, it's what you leave in them. And so we have to be self-responsible to say, even if I don't feel like I deserve it, or I'm not ready, I know that I must move forward. I must become better, not to be perfect and not to be better than anyone else, and not to compare yourself, but it's a requirement of living, because we came here to manifest our greatness. We didn't come here to be mediocre and to be afraid and pass away with all this potential within us. We came here to shed all that light and all that love and not worry about anything else, because that's what we were brought here from a fundamental perspective. So I don't want to get long-winded again, but as you guys can tell, I get fired up because I want people to be free. I know what it feels to be successful on the outside and you feel like trash on the inside. I know what that feels like, and we don't have to live that way. And I don't have a psych degree. I actually changed my major to marketing, but it was an initial psych degree. So I think somebody asked that.
So I want to differentiate. I'm glad you hit that. You don't have a psych degree. How is this different from counseling? Because you go about working with business owners, helping them understand ultimately the impediment, business owners and professionals, corporate professionals, mid-level and high-level professionals, helping them unlock the blocks that are holding them back, that are tied back to a lot of these pieces you're talking about. So how is this different from counseling? What are you doing that's different? Or how would someone sort of figure out, hey, which path do I need to go? What does that look like?
Yeah, so, my journey was a little unique. A lot of it had to do with life experience, and starting about 7 or 8 years ago, in all of my roles, whether it was a consulting role or not, I ended up having meetings quarterly, monthly with my leaders, and all of them just turned into coaching sessions. I don't know what was going on. I was like, why does it keep on turning into they're asking me questions, and I'm supposed to be doing the opposite? So life had a way of showing me kind of the direction that I was heading, but I've been studying the science of the mind and psychology and metaphysics and all these things for over 15 years, because When I went through my really tough times after my stepfather got sick, I had so many unanswered questions. I had to know the answers. I had to find the value in all the struggle and pain and confusion and doing the same things, getting the same results for so long. And so I made a life study of it, well over 20,000 hours at this point, because I just had to know. Then I began to realize that it was a natural connection. And so about 2.5 years ago, after doing workforce development, doing this, healthcare, and other corporate roles, it was all pointing me in the same direction. And so what I do differently from, just kind of like a, therapy session or going to a psychiatrist is, for me, I want to make sure that the conversation, the work that we do is practical based on the information that I receive from you. And we focus on root cause solutions. So first of all, we get to the root cause of these ideas by identifying what these negative belief systems are. And once we get to the root cause, then it's all about beginning to disassociate psychologically from what these ideas and beliefs and actions are, which are not us. And many times they're the voices and the behaviors and the beliefs of our parents, of our older siblings, and other influences in our lives when we were before the age of reason, I guess I should say. And so our steps, we have 6 steps. It's straightforward, but we meet you where you are. And if we need to start at step 2, it's totally okay. I don't have a license that says, if we don't do this first, I have to ask you all these questions before. I mean, yes, we have preset questionnaires and things like that, but we make sure that we have human interaction with humans, about humans, and it's all about making sure that you receive what you came to us to get. And we can be very creative with that, but starting at the subconscious level, because that's how all of our minds work and are structured, the science is going to win out every single time. Because until we have identity change, which means we see ourselves in a different way, which impacts beliefs and behaviors, until that happens by replacing negative ideas with positive ideas and beliefs or stories, then the work is not going to be completed. I can help to motivate you, but I want you to be transformed. I can't do it for you, but I can help you to get there. And because I did it for myself and I've done it for over 100 clients now, including former employers, I know how to do it. Of course, we'll go through all the process, but we don't have to get down into the minutia of what the state board says I need to do. We can just work on healing, get to the root cause, and not waste a bunch of time. That makes sense. And no disrespect if there is any psychologist, because I'm not comparing, but people have actually asked me or told me that, hey, I got more out of 3 sessions than I did 5 years of counseling. So it's more effective to be root cause based. And I don't want to talk you to death. I want you to talk. I want us to work together. I want you to feel that you were understood, to have some accountabilities along the way, because that's what it's all about. Just as it would be to walk side to side with a good friend that has some good advice or whatever you like to call it.
So I want to remind everyone, feel free to light up the chat with questions, comments, and of course, sarcastic remarks, because this is an Idea Collective gathering officially. But do drop questions when they come up there, because I think that's an important part of what we're doing. In the meantime, I'll keep interviewing William, because I think we are just getting, like what Alex said, that his head's spinning from all the gold that's pouring out here right now. So, William, what are some common hurdles when we, again, thinking about business owners? And I actually want to put it in the concept of the new year. We set goals, we do resolutions, we do, all sorts of stuff, almost by an act of willpower, that somehow January 1 is magical over December 31st. And how, what shows up that kind of breaks down some of those pieces? Because we all know something like 30% of resolutions don't make it a week. Well over 50 certainly don't make it out of the month of January. And like the other 49% don't make it out of, Valentine's Day. So what is it that's, what are some things that you see and some wisdom you can share on that?
Yeah, I think that the biggest gap in understanding is that if we want transformational change, it starts with, as I just mentioned, an identity change. What that means is who we believe we are must be adjusted, expanded, sometimes, and a lot of times that has to do with a lot of healing of these negative belief systems and self-sabotaging behaviors and the fear of what won't go right. So a lot of us will take time to do those vision boards, to write down those goals. But as you mentioned, those things, if they're going to be lived out or executed, is going to be based on willpower alone, which is a conscious mind function. But when it comes to identity and beliefs and attitudes and all the deeper things that actually cause transformational change at a subconscious level, and for most of us, 90 to 95% of the day, we're operating on autopilot based on previous experiences, because our mind organizes things in a structured way to say, I know how to do this, so I'm going to continue to do this. Even if this is not productive, it's not different, it's not going to help you to quote unquote lose weight. I can tell you personally, I've lost over, I think from the beginning of my journey, maybe close to 65 pounds. I can tell you right now, the thing when it comes to, for example, just weight loss, but it applies to everything, is the discipline of doing the thing every single day. That I know we talk about like in Idea Collective. Can you show up 3 to 4 days a week consistently for a year and do the same thing, or maybe adjust your workout slightly, or set 80% of the time eat healthy, not 100%, but 80% of the time eat well, right? Portion, drink enough water. Can you do that for a year? Are you willing to invest a year in your life to lose 100 pounds and never look back? The answer for most people is no. Not because they don't want the result, but because we have been allowed to, or because life has shown us that it's okay to not complete things, which is another big aspect. Do we have the mental construct that if I commit to myself, as Kobe Bryant said, once I make a commitment to myself, the decision is made. I don't give a damn if I got 2 hours of sleep. I don't care. I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to do this X number of days, no matter what, do or die, I'm burning the boats. That's not easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy to do. What I'm saying is it has to happen. You have to be able to live in this world as a lamb and a wolf. A wolf's going to eat, a wolf's going to hunt. Some things need to get done, period. But also to be able to relate to people, to understand people, to be a great relationship builder. That's the lamb aspect. But in this life, if we're not wolf and lamb, then we're going to get devoured. Not because other people are bad and mean and they want to hurt us, because they're mostly not thinking about us, but because we're going to self-sabotage and manifest all the negative beliefs that we believe. So getting out of our own head and getting on the offensive in life is really what it's all about. And discipline is key. So that's really what happens when any outcome that you desire doesn't happen. It's not that you don't want it from the outside, but do you have the mental mapping to be able to feel the pain, to feel the fear, to be overwhelmed, and to keep on going? Because that's the wolf mentality. And the wolf doesn't have to worry about anybody else, because you're eating what you kill and taking care of your family and your business. It's not about other people. It's about you. And do you deserve it? Do you believe it? Are you going to never quit no matter what? Because that is not something that I want to manifest in my children, in my community, and anyone that may be watching me that I know who's watching me. I need to make sure that I start with me, and I need to do it for me first. Don't do it for the kids. Don't do it for your spouse. Do it for you. So discipline is key. Doing it over and over and over again. Because the first 2 months, you may not see or lose 1 pound. But what happened with me, going to that two and a half, and it could be a month. All of a sudden, I began to drop a couple pounds a week. And that just kept happening until I got to my natural set point of about 175. And my abs came back for the first time since high school. And I don't know what day I got there. I just know I was getting up every 3 days a week, rather, going to the gym, doing yoga, lifting 45 minutes afterwards. So I was getting in a ketogenic or fat burning state all the time. But I didn't think about it. I just went and did the thing, the match. So the last thing I'll say about this, as you work on your disciplines, you need to have a strong why. And you need to be willing to burn the boats behind you, meaning I'm going to a new place and there's no going back because I deserve it, period. And it's not about comparing. Don't worry about anybody else. This is you versus you. This is you manifesting your greatness. And are you worth it? I hate to be blunt, but I had to ask myself those questions. All the excuses, I have 2 kids, they're young, and I had to, okay, whatever. Do I want to stay at 230 pounds or not? Do I want to make that next level of income or whatever else that is? And am I willing to do whatever it takes? We get one time to do this life, one time, even if you live to be 100. We can't be wasting 1 day, 1 week, 2 years feeling sorry for myself. Because even last year, I lost 2 family members and I was heartbroken, but I couldn't stop. I have children to take care of, and my stepsister's never coming back, and my wife's first cousin is never coming back. And I love them both dearly. But I'm still here, so what am I supposed to be doing? I had to cry and have tears roll down my eyes when I was on the mat doing downward facing dog. I had to go get up and lift and work out for about a month for a way to mentally and emotionally get through the pain. I had to get the energy out of me, right? I had to let it out so I didn't have to be at meetings holding back tears. And I just had to do it. I don't know how I did it, but I knew that I had to, and my why was strong. So I just encourage all of you as we think about resolution, it's not a resolution, it's not a goal, it's a manifestation of your greatness. And either it is or it is not. Either the goal happens or the goal doesn't happen. And I got tired of the damn goal not happening. Manifest your greatness one day at a time. Just take it one day at a time, but do the thing. Figure out what the things are, the activities. Work with great guys like Brett and others who are coaches that can help you find the right activities, and then just do those consistently. Are you willing to do it for 6 months to a year to see if it's going to work? That's the answer. And it took me years to get here, but now I'm beating the drum because I've found some good stuff, and hopefully these kind of conversations are valuable to you. Because at the end of the day, when we're at home by ourselves, turn out the light at night, are we okay with where we are in life? For most of us, the answer in some form or fashion is no. Now, some of it may be vanities and whatever else, fine. But even if you just want to be able to get that six-pack abs like I want to, or you want to make $1 million, who said that you can't have it? Who came to your door and told you that you weren't worth it? Who's getting in your ear first thing in the morning and saying, stay in bed and feel sorry for yourself? Now, unless there's a person, which is usually pretty rare, it's usually us, which means we can have whatever we want to. Your wish is my command, right? Like, that's a real thing. It's not just an old story about genies. It's actually the law of attraction and manifestation. And the only people who don't believe in it are the ones who haven't seen the benefits of it. So it's not about a judgment, because I didn't believe in it either. And then I realized, well, damn, I am getting in my way. I'm not taking extra time to make extra calls, to make more offers, to do more work that I talked to my brother Brent about last week. And until I get out there and 5x my offers and find a way, whatever it is, it's out there, find a way, I don't have anything to say. If I do that, if I get advice from other people and stop worrying about the outcomes and just do the thing like I did with this yoga stuff that was really hard at first, and I was almost barfing for like 2 weeks because it was so hard, and I felt embarrassed because there were people 10 times, or not 10 times, 2 times my age in there, excuse me, who were way better than me. Like, I just had to stay in there. And there were several people in there that encouraged me, and I kept on going. And before you know it, one day, after just keep on going, it wasn't as hard. So it's always hard at first. So don't worry about goals. Like, set them and establish them, but make sure that when you set them, the whys behind them are strong. And you are willing, if you're going to write them down, I encourage you at least, be willing to burn the boats. It may not be day one, but at a certain point when you start sliding backwards, you say, all right, you know what? There's some damn match. I'm about to burn these boats up, right? So that's what it's all about. And once again, I'm preaching again. I'm sorry, but I'm getting fired up. So you guys need to cut me off, or I'm just going to talk the whole time and don't mess up the show.
Well, we brought you on as our speaker on purpose, so don't worry about hogging the conversation, because you're in the spotlight. So again, any questions you want to drop in the chat, any insights, anything resonating with you? There are a few comments. So love Erica says, stop worrying about the outcomes and just do the thing. Money. And then Alex says, the universe has laws. Sooner you learn them in life, the better. The next time you learn them, the best next time to learn them is today. Sorry, I totally mutilated it. You had a beautiful quote there, Alex, and my reading skills are amazing here at 442. So, William, how do we identify some of those negative pieces in that are undercutting us, some of those self-sabotages? How do we identify those, and does it help to call them out, or do I just need to say, come heck or high water, I'm just going to make this happen? Like, what do we need to do in the process?
So one of the, I would say in the top 3 most powerful creative forces is writing things down. And just a quick anecdote as to why writing things down are important. One thing that I learned about the ancient Egyptians over the past few years is that when they were building a lot of their tombs, initially they was thought that it was for kings and queens and things like that. And it may have been representative of them or in honor of them, but they didn't find mummies in the tombs. And the tombs were basically there as a monumental vision board for the successes of the kings and queens as they were born. When a king or queen was born, they would begin to build it to basically predict and speak to the victories that they would have in battle. It was a future state, not to mention back in those times, they lived a whole lot longer. So if it took 40 years to build it, they were still very young people at that point. But they were building them to be able to create a monument of what they would do many times. And of course, they were asking things that they did and the victories won, but it was a manifestation technique they understood. So that's why I'm saying writing is very powerful. So what I would like, if anyone has a scratch sheet of paper or anything like that, I want to describe to you what the activity is and let you kind of take some time to work on this on your own. So it's an activity that I call the whiteboard of character. And it's basically just a simple T chart.
Oh, hold on, William. Let's give people, I actually want people to go get a piece of paper. My favorite thing when I lead workshops and seminars is I tell people to go do something and everyone just keeps looking at me. So we're going to give everyone 10 seconds to go find the piece of paper and get the pencil, because you are about to get in our remaining 15 minutes, he's about to drop some brilliance on you. And so I want you to benefit, because this is the beginning. But if we can help you break free of just one item and help you lock into one piece moving forward that you can commit to and be honest to yourself and have an anchored, really strong why behind, it's going to help you the rest of the year. Go ahead, William.
Okay. Does anyone else need any more time to get some paper? I'm not going to belabor the point here, but can everyone see this? So it's a simple T chart. On the top left-hand side, go ahead and write positive ideas about myself. I kind of paraphrased here. And on the top right-hand corner, write negative ideas about myself. So the activity itself is fairly simple. What it's all about is utilizing that T chart. So on that left side, we want to write those positive ideas in the form of statements, short sentences that are descriptive, right? So I am smart. I am an excellent technologist. I am a great father, right? Anything that's positive for you. You can write in I am tenses, but just make sure that it is descriptive about the positive ideas or beliefs that you deeply hold within yourself. Like if you had to put a top 5 to 10, what would those positive beliefs or ideas in phrase form be? And do the exact opposite on the negative ideas. When you don't feel safe, when you feel fear, when you feel any negative, doubtful, not good enough, unworthy emotion, what are those voices and how do they speak to you? What do they say to you, right? And that may be a top 3, it could be 10, could be 5, but just take a little bit of time to write down the positive ideas about myself in phrase form, to just write it out so they can tell a theme or a story a little bit, just one sentence. And then the negative ideas or beliefs about yourself, write those out. Of course, you guys are going to be right here for a minute, but I'm going to let you guys write, but I just want to kind of speak slowly in the background so you can still get your ideas down. The purpose of this activity is to be able to say these positive ideas are a part of the success mapping of my mind. And the negative ideas is where the self-sabotage lies in phrase form. So as we're writing them out, keep the positive, put those to the side, or just don't focus on the left side. But on the right side, those negative ideas, those are ideas or beliefs that we deeply believe about ourselves that are not positive or productive. As you're writing these things out, by each one of the negative ideas, just write a simple word, why? Why do I believe this? And or where? So why and or where? Why do I believe this and where did this idea come from? Because if we think about why we believe it, sometimes it's been there so long, we don't even know why it's actually still there. Like, it's okay, but it's been in the subconscious for a long time. And if we ask ourselves, where does it come from? If you look at a negative idea, like you're not good in math or you aren't worthy of love and relationships or whatever else it is, you're going to realize many times this is what you observed growing up or around you in your household and other people close to you consistently, and or someone told you this, or someone made you feel like this. So these ideas many times are not our own. They come from what we've experienced. It comes from our traumas. It comes from our hurt. And even though it's not conscious or we don't carry it every single day, with the right stimuli, we're going to have a trigger from there, right? Like there's certain things in relationships, and especially once we got married, we found all of our triggers, didn't we? All the stuff that we were uncomfortable with and didn't think we were good enough for, or someone said something in a certain kind of way to you and it triggers you, it takes you back to high school in a bad relationship, or your parents' divorce, or whatever else it is. And these things are very real, but until we can really expose these negative beliefs for what they really are. We're going to hold on to them as a part of our personality, which is broken down into two words, our personal reality. It doesn't mean that it's true, because remember, fear is acronym for false evidence appearing real. But once we expose this and say, this is really my mom's voice, it's not me, then we can begin to slowly disassociate from that trigger and that emotional response, those behavior responses, because this isn't mine to carry anymore, right? Yes, it hurts, but it's time to process this and get this out of my system and let it go. The only way we can let it go is if we don't identify with it, because as long as we're identifying with it, we're going to be holding on to it tightly, even if it's burning our hands, even if it's messing up our lives and our relationships. And just because you've been feeling this way and doing these things for XYZ years doesn't mean that you can't do something new. And as a matter of fact, the definition of insanity is doing the same things, expecting different results. So if it's not working for you, it's not about if I think that it's good or bad, or you're a bad person. No. It's positive, negative outcome-based realities that we already know. No one has to know about this. We just need to be real with ourselves and say, this self-deprecating behavior, this talking crap about myself jokingly, this is no longer funny. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And as long as I'm speaking garbage and taking in garbage information or eating really, really bad foods all the time, it's not about the moderation, but all the time or too much. And it's making us feel bad physically. We can't think clearly mentally. We have brain fog and we have all this memory stuff, which a lot of time is a sign of trauma when we have poor memories. Most of us don't have poor memories. If we feel like we do, it's just, it's attached to trauma. It's a way to disconnect. It's a way to not try too hard so that I don't have to feel the pain of failure. When actually failure doesn't really exist. Failure is just a figment of your imagination, because either you win or you learn in reality as long as you're alive. You never fail unless you just throw the towel in. And if something that has a strong enough why, you won't be able to. So hopefully those things kind of help you, once again, taking time to write those things out and see them for what they are. I know that we won't be able to write why and where, all the negative beliefs, and probably have a chance to write all of them down. But just remember, ask yourself why do I believe this, and where did it come from? Because over 80% of the times, it's not even you. And it's been holding you back in so many different ways. And it no longer needs to. We can choose to continue doing the same thing we've been doing. We can. I just think that's a poor option. I think that's a lower quality option. I think that's the equivalent of having a brand new Lexus, or a brand new Ferrari, which your mind is, and you're going to the gas station putting 87 gasoline in. The car might run, but it's not going to run at the same level, same performance, and it's going to break down much faster because it's lesser quality fuel. It'll work. But why are you putting yourself through all this pain? Who made you the sacrificial lamb of the universe to just go through a bunch of stuff and suffer all the time? And I don't care where it came from, it's garbage. Because I know there's different. I know that comes from different spaces, and it's still untrue. It's still going to ruin your life. So don't do it, or stop doing it, because it's time for you to be free. That's my opinion. I like running off of 93 gas. I get a whole lot more energy. I get more things done. I'm attracting more good into my life, and I'm focusing less on things that I can't control, because people are going to do what they want to do. But I'm going to also focus on how I can be a part of the solution, not the problem, and not judge people or judge myself. And things just tend to work out better when you get out of the way and you stay in your space. And then if people want to try to interact with that, they really can't, because if they're not on the same vibration, it's just going to kind of repel them away. And you can have a whole lot more peace in your life. And no one's keeping you from changing that and making that a reality today. It doesn't have to take 6 months, and no one can stop you. It's all you. So I think we're out of time, because I didn't talk a lot, but hopefully that was good.
All right, I think that was a solid takeaway, William. And I want to encourage folks, if you just got started and you got wrapped into the trance as William was sharing some of these pieces, we did drop some notes in the chat, so go ahead and hit the 3 dots and download that if you want to read that later. We will get,
here goes the little T chart.
There's the T chart. Thank you very much.
Myself, positive ideas about myself. Please write about myself, and not just the 2 words. and begin to think about that and ask, why do I believe this and where did it come from? And you'll have so much revelation based off of that. You might get fired up and, I don't know, want to do some coaching or something. Who knows?
So I would say, and I would encourage everyone, pick no more than 3. You start, like, we can get a whole list, particularly if we're feeling maybe a little bit down on ourselves. We're going to brainstorm and people get like 20, 50, 100, and they're like, hey, whatever, pick 3. If you can pick the biggest 3, that's cool, but pick any 3 that you're ready to tackle and go at it. And I say only pick 3 because we aren't going to do it. If you pick 10, that is almost the number one reason in my experience why people fall down, because it takes some time. It takes some hard work. A lot of these you've probably spent decades ingraining into your brain, and that's a lot to suddenly reverse. So pick 3, work them hard, follow some of the principles William's talking about, anchor that why, get it deep, commit to yourself, do it 80% of the time, and then check your results, see how it happens, see what happens in a month, see what happens in 3 months, see what happens in 6 months, and see if some of those don't disappear off your list, or maybe what was a negative has somehow remanifested as a positive. So it's probably not a once exercise. Redo that exercise in a little bit and validate where you're going.
Most definitely. And I think that law is the law of, what was it? The law of inverse, I'm sorry. It'll come back to me, but the ability to bet from psychologically to transfer, here it goes. The law of inverse transformation. It talks about the ability to psychologically transition a negative to a positive, because we actually can create lemons or eliminate from lemons, psychologically, physically, or otherwise, right? We have the ability to take the seed of any situation, any negative situation. There's always a seed of an equivalent good. So the seed of the opposite and equal is always there. It's just, can we see that? And I did see one quick question, I think, from Paula about, like, if we were able to maybe change 1 or 3 of these beliefs, what potential outcomes could be. I would say that they're unlimited, because until we begin to release some of these toxic beliefs and attitudes that just don't work for us, we have no idea what, and I just have to say it this way, what God has for us and what's being held back in the spiritual realm, because we hadn't let go of things, right? That's why there's a correlation between psychological states and physical manifestations, because they're one and the same. Because everything's energy. Energy can never be created or destroyed. It just changes. So if it goes from a gas state or spirit, it can come back in the physical form of a solid, right? It's a scientific way of saying the same thing. And so it's really unlimited. But I think that the reality is we have to give ourselves the chance to see what the end is going to be. Because if we go over the side or the other side of the high mountain that we've been climbing, we have no idea what's over there, but we know it's going to be good, right? And that gives us an opportunity to be able to allow life to be a joy and a journey, right? As opposed to a fearful nightmare, and Freddy Krueger keeps on popping out of the bushes and under your bed, and right? Because it just doesn't have to be that way. And many times we are having these Freddy Krueger experiences, and it's not the best option. It's the 87 gasoline. Hopefully that answers your questions.
Love it. Couple of plugs I want to put in. If you're not a member of the Idea Collective, I want to encourage you to do that. It's been transformational for me and my business over the last year. I know a good share of folks on this call are part of it, but it is a network of small businesses that are getting together, supporting one another, and figuring out how to grow, win, and succeed, not in the way that crummy networking groups normally do, but actual group of people who want to support you. And as Pat would say, and frankly, trademarks, I'm giving them full credit. It's your business. Don't grow it alone. So as we wrap up here, I want to just give you a couple of next steps here. First, I'd love if you want to dig into this topic deeper or any other topic having to do with your business, do look me up. Consider it. I got a free coaching discovery session. I'm going to give William a chance to do his intro here or his how to get in contact with him here in a second. I'd love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn I'm not already connected with. And again, do check out the Idea Collective Small Business Incubator. It is well worth your time, well worth your investment. You will not look back, and you will not regret it. William, if people want to get a hold of you, if you've struck a chord, they want to follow whenever workshops, get you on social media, talk to you one-on-one, how do they get a hold of you?
Yes, I actually just put it in the chat. You can always email me at wdeck@mindbusinessllc.com right here in the chat. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn the most. And if you just search at William B. Deck or just type in William Deck, I'm the only Black guy and I have a long beard and a high top fade. It's going to be the first person that pops up, period. So you don't have to worry about that. So William Deck will also do the job. But yeah, I mean, once again, just if there's individuals who need to kind of process some of the things, like to have a conversation, it doesn't have to be formal. It's just about, once again, sharing and spreading the light. And I think, once again, these conversations are important because so many of us are right on the edge of having a huge breakthrough that would change our lives. And if I can be a part of that in any way, awesome. So
Love it.
feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, that is going to wrap us up here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another Simple 60. If you're loving what you're having here, I want to encourage you to come back the last Monday in February 27th, 4 p.m. We're going to talk about the power of no networking one-on-one with Mitch Nellis. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to transform how you think about networking and building community. In the meantime, I hope to see you on the IC. Take care.